Hello and welcome to the Azure Stack HCI show. Hello, Manfred. How are you doing today?
Hello, Sven. I'm fine. I'm looking forward to our show today.
It's a
Because,
long time ago since we had
yeah,
our last show. So one of the reasons was that you have been attending the MVP Summit in Seattle, and you met another colleague at the MVP Summit, correct?
yes, I met Marcel and talked to him about an interesting solution we will talk about today for Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI.
Yeah, because Marcel, let's say, created an extension to Azure Virtual Desktop. And this is supporting more functionalities on Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI. And I would say, hello, Marcel, welcome to the stage. Maybe you would like to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot that I can be here with you. Yeah, my name is Marcel. I'm also an MVP for Microsoft Azure since a few years. And yes, I'm working in the AVD context for a longer time, and also started with the support from Manfred, with also working more and more with Azure Stack HCI.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. So the reason why we are talking about extensions of Azure Virtual Desktop is that Azure Virtual Desktop is available on Azure Stack HCI as well, on premises in your data center, in your edge. And with the latest release of Azure Stack HCI 23H2, we brought Azure Virtual Desktop to Azure Stack HCI. And for the first 2 months, it was without any charge. Since April, it's a charged product. Yes, of course, at the moment, we have a lot of discussions in the market about VMware, virtualization, and so on. But in addition to that, our partners and customers are asking about alternatives to Citrix as well, because Citrix raised their prices very often. And so customers wonder if there's an alternative. And just to make it clear, Citrix is no competitor to Microsoft. So Microsoft is building the infrastructure, and Citrix puts the management layer on top of it, to say it a very simple way. And now we have Azure Virtual Desktop. Azure Virtual Desktop can be managed through the native Azure portal, and a lot of features are available in the Azure portal as well. But of course, Citrix is much more comfortable. But there are coming new features to the Azure portal, but we are not close to what Citrix is offering at the moment. But here's Marcel's solution coming into the discussion, because they are offering more solutions or features than the Azure portal is offering at the moment. And about this solution, we would like to talk about today. So what it is, how customers can test it, how it is working, what functionalities are included. And I'm happy that Marcel will give us a short update about his solution and a live demo, of course. So Marcel, over to you. Or Manfred, do you want to add something?
Yeah, what I wanted to add regarding this question, what's in the feature set of Azure Virtual Desktop? You already described it. It's the Azure Virtual Desktop as a hybrid solution. So the control plane is in Azure, the workload is on premises on Azure Stack HCI. And I receive many questions from customers where the answer is, you can build this. So your question can be solved, or your request can be solved in building some scripts, some templates where you do some automation. But often the answer is, for these new technologies, you have to add something. And what you add can sometimes be something you develop on your own, where you need developers, where you need the know-how. Or sometimes the solution, or for many customers, the much easier solution is to add, let's say, add-on, a third-party solution, an addition that is already developed. And as far I got to know about the solution, Marcel provides some interesting add-ons for Azure Virtual Desktop and Azure Stack HCI. And maybe let's first talk about what your solution does, what the idea behind is, and what's the name for your solution, how you can find it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me start with the name. The name is Hydra for Azure Virtual Desktop, and the name is based on the fact that the first, I guess, Windows NT 4.0 Terminal Server Edition had this code name, this project name, Hydra. So that is the base for the name. And what it does, that is no magic, like you mentioned. Everything could be done by your own using PowerShell or other programming languages. But what it is, and I'm happy to show it later, is it makes some things much more easier. For example, if you want to roll out a new session host into a host pool, you have go through the menu in the Azure portal, select the image, the virtual machine size, network, and a lot of more stuff. You have to enter a local admin name and a password. And if you want to join it to a domain, also a domain join name, username, and a password. So a lot of repeating steps. And if you want to do the same with the solution Hydra, you click on the plus icon and it rolls out directly 1 or 10 new hosts, while all the base settings are stored behind. You only do the configuration once, and then that is a one-click shot to create new session hosts. Or another example is in the Azure portal, you sometimes searching where you can find some data like the logged on users. In Hydra, that is pretty easy. It shows, and not only for one tenant, for all tenants you have maybe in your environment. And I see that my camera stops. You can directly see it on one page. You can see all the users log into any host pools you are managing, and not go on a per host pool view. So there are a lot of things make it easier to see or to work with the session host and the users. And on the other hand, you have the full stack of automation, like updating, patching your session host once a week automatically after night.
This is a question I receive often about Azure Virtual Desktop, how the image management works. Can you say a few words about this for the image management regarding how it works with Azure Virtual Desktop out of the box and how it works together with Hydra?
Yeah. By default, the way is that you can roll out a marketplace image that is then a vanilla Windows 10, 11, mostly multi-user session. That is one way, but then you are missing the application. And the preferred way or the common way with Azure Virtual Desktop is to have a kind of golden master virtual machine, a template virtual machine, installing all the application on top, and then getting the image from that and use that to create new session hosts. The described process is a bit, or it needs some effort, because you install first the virtual machine, then you do a sysprep, and in the Azure portal you can grab an image, and at the end you have the image, but the original virtual machine that is destroyed while you run sysprep on top on this virtual machine. So you have maybe in 2 weeks recreate your golden master, and then you are making a copy of a copy and so on, with all the effort about building or rebuilding the virtual machine. And that is a bit different in Hydra. In Hydra, you have also your gold master, your template virtual machine, and then you can do it with a click, capturing an image. And what Hydra does in the background, it makes a clone of the original virtual machine and do all the destroying parts like sysprep with the cloned virtual machine. And at the end, you have your image and also your untouched original virtual machine to make updates maybe in 1 or 2 weeks for Windows updates or application updates. So that is straightforward, and also includes all the uploads to an image gallery or Azure Compute Gallery or to an Azure Stack HCI to have this image available in a custom location.
Perfect. And this is all done via graphical user interface, because for myself, I must admit I'm not the Azure native, so I know how to bring an image to an Azure storage account and to load it from there via AZ copy and so on, but I always need my documentation because I don't do it on a daily basis. So is this done via some GUI interface, or do I need this detailed Azure know-how there?
That is done via GUI, so it's easy to click it together, and then you give it a start, or click on the start button, and then it starts doing all the automation step, which you normally would do with PowerShell, for example, in the background automatically, so that the user or the administrator don't have to care about it. about the
Okay.
special now how to bring the images to HCI or to a storage account.
And when we think about Azure Stack HCI, then for sure we have the situation that this image has to be brought to the Azure Stack HCI cluster for the Azure Virtual Desktop deployments. This is also handled by Hydra, or how does this work?
Yeah, that is handled by Hydra, and it works by selecting from the Azure Stack HCI the custom location that is the kind of target. And after the imaging or the sysprep process and imaging process, it uploads the disk image then to the cluster. So that is available to roll out then new session host based on that image.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Sounds good. And if you have some questions, so please type them into the chat window and we will ask Marcel to answer them. So Marcel, do you want to show us something?
Yeah, I can do. I'm happy to do.
Share your screen. Here we are.
Yes, perfect. What we now can see, that is the main page from Hydra. So Hydra is an app service at the end that lives in the customer subscription. So all data are in the subscription in the boundaries of the clients. No data is left. And this is my installation. And in my installation, I have several tenants. Mainly, I would guess that customer only have one tenant to manage their Azure Virtual Desktop environment. In my case, I have more than one, but works in the same. What we directly can see, there are some tiles, and each tile is a host pool. And it makes no difference from this view if the host pool containing virtual machines from Azure Native or from Azure Stack HCI. So that is the global view. Some host pool are in use. For example, that is my standard host pool. It's called Designed. It's a multi-user session host pool. There are 25 sessions, so user connected to the pool and a capacity of 30. So 30 users could connect, 25 are connected, which result in a specific load of this host pool. And if I go into this host pool, I can also see what happens in the morning. So the red line, that is the capacity. In this case, each host can handle up to 5 users. So at this time, 2 session host runs. Capacity was 10 users, and then the user, and I automated this so that I have not to type in several user accounts. So then user logged in, and that is the blue line. You can see that it's increasing this line, the user log on. And what Hydra does, it starts, or in this case, there's a special one, it starts, or it can create also session hosts on demand to handle the user load. And in the best case, that is the red line is close to the blue line, so that you have enough resources, but not too much, while we have to pay mostly for them. And then we can see the users are still connected, or in this case, they have disconnected session, but the users are sitting on top of the session host, and that goes to the end of the day. And then if the users are logging off, Hydra will deallocate the virtual machine to save money. Here is a list of virtual machines. In this host pool, we can also see the number of sessions, sessions overall, how many sessions are disconnected. The most are disconnected right now, while I started this early today. And we can also see the user load. There's one specific which is not Azure native. What we also can see, we get some information about the CPU load in percentages, and also the used memory. So that is coming from a small agent running on the session host, reporting to this endpoint, to this app surface. And we can also check what processes are running on the virtual machines. And we are also able to terminate processes. That is sometimes useful if a user has a session and there's one application running crazy. Let me say Excel. And the user then, but they are sometimes rebooting the notebook, reconnecting again, and getting the same crazy session. And what the help desk or I could do, and that has a role-based access, so that the help desk is also able to, in this case, terminate Excel for this user, but cannot delete a virtual machine. So that is one point. And let me go back. This is a normal Azure environment. And if I go back and go to my Azure Stack HCI pool, that looks similar. So there is no difference from Hydra except one thing. all the session hosts based on Azure Stack HCI has this little small icon. So that are virtual machine running on Azure Stack HCI. But the view is the same. We can also see I logged on some users here, and I did some tests in this morning in the morning, and you also can see the auto scaling, so starting and later stopping the virtual machine, so that the red line is covering the blue line pretty close, but with some space left so that user can still log in. What we also can do from this menu is we can do some tasks like selecting virtual machine. We can filter by name. We can do start host. We can stop host. We can restart host. All the expected things. We can bring the virtual machines into a drain mode so that user cannot connect anymore if you have to do some maintenance stuff. So that is all what we can do. And I think one interesting part is that is what I mentioned before. If I want to add a new session host, I click on plus and enter a number. Let me say 5. Click on OK, and that would take 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the image size and the speed of the cluster. And then we have the virtual machine in. And all the data you normally have to enter in the Azure portal are stored in the background on the host pool configuration. And if I go to this, we can see, in this case, the configuration for the Azure Stack HCI pooled host pool. There's some configuration about auto-scaling and also for a new session host rollout. And here we can see how a new host is defined. They all have a naming schema. And that is a big difference to a normal Azure virtual machine. In the network and subnet list, I can see all my networks that are the West Europe, that are the default networks for the Azure for the global Azure. And there is one that is my custom location that is called Cologne. And if I select the custom location, this menu looks like this. I also can select an image. There are several images in. So some I uploaded based on a golden master, and also a gallery image that is in Windows 11 from the Microsoft Gallery. And I can select the images to roll out new session hosts and can store it for all new upcoming rollouts. And that is a bit different if you compare it later maybe to a native Azure rollout. For Azure Stack HCI, we enter instead of a VM size, the number of processors and the memory. So that is the different we have compared to the Azure virtual machine, this VM size like an D4 AS V5. And that is all. And all rollout I do now are based on this configuration. So it's a one-click to create new session hosts. If I come back,
what's important to explain again, Sven already mentioned that we have costs for Azure Virtual Desktop, because when you are wondering why it's helpful that virtual machines scale automatically and shut down automatically, we have since 1st of April costs of $1 per virtual core per hour. So we have seen your configuration. So let's imagine we have a virtual machine with 16 virtual CPUs. Then we have this $16 per hour for this virtual machine. And for sure, if I can shut down the virtual machine, then I don't have the costs, because it's a pay-per-use model. I really only pay if the machine is up and running. And this is the reason why this red line follows these steps, I assume, because every time when the step goes one up, I assume you have started a virtual machine. Not you have started it, your tool has started a virtual machine, because the user load filled up the first machine, for example, the next is started, and for sure then the costs increase. But I think this is very helpful, because this question we received very, very often, if it's possible to shut down the virtual machines to optimize this based on the user workload. Yeah,
absolutely. So we have to take control over the codes, and then for this reason we have also to auto scale our own hardware. So if I go back to the user session, or let me go here to the user sessions menu, that is what I mentioned before. we have here a list of all users connected to all of the host pools in one row. And we are able to, what helpdesk is doing, searching for specific users and then filtering and do some operation. What mostly is done in an environment is that the helpdesk has to maybe log off a user while the user session is corrupt or has some issues, like I mentioned before, crazy running Excel or Teams or so. So that is what we can do. We are also able to initiate for an active user session that we can mirror the screen of the user. For this, we have to connect it or to be in the same network as the session host. Technically, MSTSC is called to shadow, to mirror the user session if the user accepts. So that can be done from here. And interesting is, and let me mention it again, over all hosts, over all tenants, independent, is it an HCI or is it a native Azure virtual machine?
Mm-hmm. And this is great because those that know remote desktop services, traditionally they know this feature where it was possible to mirror a session for support cases. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say the second or third important part is that is the all about having this golden master and capturing image. That is what we talked about before. And I have it in here. So what I normally have in my environment, that is one or more golden masters where all the application are installed. And that works like this. I select, in this case, my tenant, demo tenant, and my golden master that is called TAVD W11B10. So that is my golden master. And the only thing I have to do after this is installed and has the state I want to have with all the application, I would select a target resource group for the image. And while I have an Azure Stack HCI in my environment, I also can select, open Azure Stack HCI, the custom location. And that is, in this case, Cologne. And have some optional features like keeping all the images or deleting older images. And that is all. And what I now have to do is click on Create Image, and the imaging process would start. First cloning the virtual machine, going to through the sysprep process and doing some optimization and cleanups before, and then capturing the image and uploading the image, in this case, to the Azure Stack HCI. So that starts, it would take 15 to 30 minutes. It's sometimes different how fast it is. And uploading to Azure Stack HCI, that could take a bit more time. But that is all. And that is how I create images. In this case, the image is available in Azure Stack HCI and also for normal Azure Virtual Machine, while I stored also the custom image resource into this resource group. And that is all what we have to do. And let me share a screen or a short video. I recorded that. That is on 10:30. I hope that now is working. So that's the same thing, selecting the golden master. Could be a bit faster. That is the golden master that's installed with all the application. And after this is fine, I go through the imaging process and later have the image available. Here's now the shown that I'm downloading some software and installing the software. And what I mostly use for a demonstration is Ninite, while you get easily software installed on the golden master. Let me skip that a bit. So it's all about installing the application. After the golden master is ready, that is what I have shown before, to Azure Stack HCI, selecting the custom location, clicking on Create Image, and start. And then we should also see that it starts building. Here we can see start building the cloned virtual machine, doing the sysprep, and then uploading the image to Azure Stack HCI. And later we can select it in the list and roll out new virtual machine. So pretty straightforward way to work with or to create images. Another point is what also is often a point. You have regular you have to update your virtual machine regarding Windows updates, for example. And what you could do, there are two different things you could do. You could update the gold master, maybe each 2 weeks, capture an image, create new session host and delete the older one. That is one way you could do. That works pretty good for a multi-user environment. But if you have personal session host where a user is assigned directly to one virtual machine and the user has local data while he is a developer, for example, then you cannot replace the existing virtual machine with the local data with a native one, with a fresh one. So for this, you have to do some Windows updates. And I do Windows update and other maintenance stuff also with Hydra. For example, we have here a script part, and in the script part, you will find PowerShell script, and you can add additional script. So that's a bit longer. I'm using it for a longer time. But the Windows update script, that is pretty straightforward. That is a small PowerShell script that's also included. And the script, if you run it on a virtual machine or on a computer, on a Windows computer, it would do the same as logging on to a virtual machine, click on Windows Update, search for new updates, and install updates. So that is what the PowerShell script would do on virtual machines. Another way to maintain or to work with a virtual machine is to use collection. And collection that are a bit different. Let me search for my Windows Update collection. This one. I built it by my own based on an existing one. And that is a bit different. That is not only for script. Here are a lot of tasks in. And if you apply this collection to a virtual machine, it would go step by step to the different point. For example, it would first go into the drain mode so that no user can log on anymore. Then it would log off existing users if users are connected to the virtual machine. It would start the virtual machine in case that the virtual machine is not running. It's there located. And then it would run the Windows update script once, do a restart to apply all the Windows updates. And after that, it would run Windows Update again. And that is sometimes needed if you have dependencies from one Windows Update to another one. It would also search again for Windows Update. It would install them. It would do a last restart. And then it would deallocate, shut down the virtual machine, and remove the drain mode so that user possibly, if the virtual machine starts again later, could connect. And this is what I'm using. Let me go back to my dashboard view. For example, let me do that on another virtual machine, which is maybe not running. So I can select a virtual machine or two, go to the menu, and here is a paper play menu, and that brings me back to the list of scripts and collections. And if I then select my collection for Windows Update, let me type this, easier to find. Here is a collection I have shown before with all these steps, including installing the Windows Update. It would then go through the steps, and in this case, it would start the virtual machine into drain mode, and that would patch these two virtual machines directly. That is one way to work, maybe not the best way. And therefore, let me get some more power on my virtual machine so that it's not so slow. Seconds. So if I go back, for example, to my host pool, my HCI host pool, go into the configuration setting where we also have the rollout configurations seen before. Here is a point that is called script schedules. And that is what I'm using to apply the scripts and the collection we have seen before, what I've done manually right now onto virtual machine. You can select the script, and then you can configure to run the script on, in this case, on all session hosts, on 10 hosts at the same time. And if one is ready, the next one will get the script or the collection each Sunday in the morning. And that is what I'm using to patch all my session hosts, in this case based on Azure Stack HCI or on the normal Azure Virtual Machine, to have them patch once a week automatically. And that is only one example. You can build different collections to deploy maybe on Monday morning 10 session hosts and maybe remove 5 session hosts on each Friday. So it's very flexible to maintain all the things you have to deal with in Azure Virtual Desktop in a pretty easy way. That is mostly that what we can do in the combination with Azure Stack HCI. If you're working also with Azure native virtual machine, and sometimes you have maybe virtual machine in Azure and on Azure Stack HCI with Azure Virtual Desktop, then also other things could be interesting, like that you have a kind of auto scaling for Azure storage account where you have the profiles based on FS logics, but that is not relevant, I would say, in an Azure Stack HCI environment where you would use maybe a file share or so to store the profiles in. And the last point I could mention is that users, for example, I also have here one host pool that is not for a that is a multi-user host pool. I also have a personal host pool. That is where users are assigned to a specific session host, like WVD 10. This user is assigned to this specific host, and every time he come back and want to work, he get exactly this virtual machine for his use, including all the local data he maybe have stored on, and maybe some special permission. Like developers sometimes needs more permission based on that what they have to develop, like local admin rights. This virtual machine can be used by the user, and there's one specific thing. If a developer, for example, has some issues with the virtual machine, he sometimes needs the possibility to restart the virtual machine by its own, what is normally not possible while the user not have access to the Azure portal. For that, the user could log on also to Hydra. Let me open a new ITP. Also to Hydra, but with a different permission. In this case, he has only a user permission. And then the user only sees some, in this case, he has a bit more permission, I can see, but not all permission. Therefore, the menu is lower. If a user is only a user, he has only this menu item. And if he click on that, he would only see his specific, I'm wondering why I don't see it, only his specific sessions and virtual machine. And he would be able, and I'm a bit wondering why I don't see it, and he would be able to restart its own personal virtual machine.
The specific machine, yeah. Okay.
So, strange.
Maybe I missed it in the beginning. The Hydra solution, we can see here Hydra AzureWebsites.net. What's the starting point? So if I want to start with Hydra for AVD in Azure or on Azure Stack HCI, where do I get the solution, and do I need something except the Azure subscription?
Yeah, you need an Azure subscription. You need it also for your Azure Stack HCI.
For Azure Stack HCI, yes.
Yeah. And to build the host pool. So that is the host pool itself, this kind of resource type host pool, is also always in Azure, independent if the virtual machine is coming from Azure or from Azure Stack HCI. So that is what you need. And if you want to start with Hydra and to test it, the best way is to go to my GitHub page. There's everything described, including features, and there's also a deploy to Azure button that brings you to the Azure Marketplace inside the Azure portal, where you can roll out the solution in your environment so that all data stays at your side. Hydra is for the first month completely free, and after a month it goes into the community mode. And community mode means that you can still use all features to manage your Azure Virtual Desktop host pools up to a limit of 6 hosts per pool. So that is the only limitation. If you need more than 6 hosts in a pool, then you can go for the commercial edition. And the commercial edition, that is paid on a monthly subscription based, and that is calculated on the high watermark of concurrent connected users you have in a month, multiplied by €2 or $2. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I would say not expensive, and no minimum commitment, no time commitment. If you don't, if you are fine with the Azure portal, maybe later, if more and more features are coming in, you can stop working with Hydra and go for the Azure portal. But I would bet you would stay for some reason. Also, all the features listed is a long feature list. And also, if you check the update and release, you can see that it's often updated very often to bring in new features. So there is a long list. Also for in this year, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, around 10 updates. And mostly, or the newest one, based on Azure Stack HCI support, starting in February, mid-February, and you will see more in the next months and weeks. So that is a good starting point, going to the GitHub page.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so far.
Looks good.
Sven?
I like it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I also like it because Marcel mentioned, we didn't talk about this till now, that Microsoft also added some missing features in the last days, and let's say I didn't compare them, but I tested the official features that Microsoft added in the last days, and now I've seen Hydra, and Hydra is more what I expect when I asked about the graphical user interface. So it's from my point of view, I didn't use it. I've seen it for the first time together with Azure Stack HCI, but it seems to be somehow self-explaining, especially for those that are coming maybe from remote desktop services and now are switching to Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI, what I always recommend as a modern solution. My impression is that many features we know from on premises are very easily to reach here via Hydra. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry, you wanted to. You're testing the user and the host. I see.
Yeah, I have seen the was a wrong permission for the user, but don't. Please continue.
Yeah. Anything to add from your side, Sven, or any questions from the audience?
No question from the audience so far. No questions from myself. So I got a very good overview what Hydra is doing. I like it very much, and I think we can test it in the next couple of days. Good thing is, first 30 days are for free, so very similar to what we have with Azure Stack HCI. There's a free period as well. So I'm looking forward to your feedback. So what you, our community, is thinking about the solution when you see the video, when you will test it. Here again is the URL where you can get all the information about the solution and where you can download the solution. So if you have any comments in the next couple of weeks, so please let us know. I'm super curious.
Perfect. The Hydra solution itself, Marcel, you mentioned the releases. How does the update work here? So you have seen this 10 releases you already had this year. Do I have to care about anything for the Hydra solution itself?
It's pretty easy to update it. So the best way is to follow the GitHub channel so that you are get a notification if something changed. If there's some major change, you will see it here in the text that there is a major update available, and updating is pretty easy. Go on this nice icon, click on Update Engine, and that will take a few minutes, and then the engine is updated to the newest version.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Sounds good. So as long as there are no questions, I think we are at the end of this demo. So you have some time to raise your questions until we are closing the session with the slides I always show at the end of the Azure Stack HCI show. The next show will be April 26th. So at the moment, I have no idea what the topic will be. Manfred, do you have something in mind so far, or?
Yeah, let's see if we already have some of the next announcements we are waiting for, because for sure Azure Stack HCI is released once a year, but we have already heard when version 23 H2 was released that several new extensions, let's say, or new additions will be announced between 23 H2 and 24 H2. So maybe we already have some new stuff here in April 26th. And if not, we could talk about the changes we had in the last weeks or month, because the cloud-based deployment we already introduced in, let's say, the first show when Azure Stack HCI 23 H2 was released has changed a little bit. It's not more complicated, but it solved some feedback things you had about being more flexible in the deployment. Yeah.
Ah, that's good. And then I would like to recommend my Azure Stack HCI website, because I got so many requests if I can share some documents or information about where can you get support and so on and so on. So I created a website, Sven Langenfeld-techtalk.com. And if I switch to that website, you can see when you go to the videos and documents and select the tech documents, then you get some documents, and here you can see the AVD Hydra as well. So a lot of news, cool things are on that website. So if you want to stay up to date, go to the news channel and you will get everything that's new about Azure Stack HCI. If you want to learn about licensing, there's a segment called licensing, where you can download some licensing decks or see a 30-minute presentation how licensing is working, and links to the official Microsoft documentations. And you have feedback content about hardware services. Who are the OEMs? Who are the contacts? You can reach out if you want some detailed information. What are the special offerings these OEMs have, and so on and so on. And of course, there's a section called Windows Server 2025. That's a very cool new version we are waiting for end of this calendar year. And you can watch the Ignite announcement session, for example, or you can download the current PowerPoint deck. Or there was the Windows Server Summit from the engineering team, 3-day sessions, and you can watch the sessions on demand. And if you wonder, is Hyper-V is still a product Microsoft is doing investments in? Of course, there's a very nice blog, The Future of Windows Server Hyper-V. It's bright, you can click in here, and so on and so on. So a lot of content. And when we're talking about Windows Server 2025, so beginning of this week, you had an awesome event in Germany, correct, Manfred?
Yes, the German Windows Server Summit I organized together with Carsten Rachfall in Würzburg. We had more than 250 attendees there, a lot of sessions, many interesting talks, great feedback from the attendees. And you mentioned the hardware vendors. Many of them have been there to present their solutions for Azure Stack HCI and Windows Server 2025. Because I think what I have seen, the event was about Windows Server 2025, and we had a session to compare Windows Server 2025 with Azure Stack HCI. And even if Windows Server becomes more powerful and Windows Server gets many features that were exclusive to Azure Stack HCI in the past, more and more customers are thinking about this hybrid story and say, okay, we see the advantage of using Azure to bring workloads to on-premises, to manage workloads to on-premises. So many customers also asked and talked about Azure Stack HCI in the breaks. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's super important that everyone is familiar with Azure Arc as well, because Azure
Yeah.
Arc is a solution that is an important part of Azure Stack HCI. And this is connecting Azure to the non-Azure infrastructure. And you have an event together with Alexander Otter,
Yeah,
the Arc Show Live. You can find the link here in the ticker. So if you're interested in getting more information about Azure Arc, it's in 1.5 weeks, I guess.
it's
It's in
22nd
Würzburg,
April.
one
It's
day.
Yes, it's one day in Würzburg, and it's a full pack day of demos because, as you mentioned, Azure Arc gets more and more important, and we are doing the Azure Arc show on YouTube. It's always an hour, similar to the Azure Stack HCI show, and for Azure Arc, there are so many features available already that we said it could be interesting to have them all in one day to begin with deploying the agent and then adding within the day more and more features, monitoring, update management, extensions, and so on.
Yeah, sounds good. And if you do not want to miss anything, we recommend to follow us on Azure Stack HCI Tech Talk on LinkedIn. And yeah, of course, on YouTube as well. There you will find all the news, all the content. And then there's the hybrid show every second week, Friday, before the Azure Stack HCI show. So it makes sense to to start watching Manfred's readiness a little bit earlier. The hybrid show is streamed on Manfred Helber's YouTube channel, so not on the Azure Stack HCI Tech Talk one. And if you do not want to miss anything from the Windows Business Solution Club or Manfred's readiness offering, you can get the calendar. The manfredhelber.de/calendar URL will lead you to a short introduction how to get the WBSC calendar into your calendar. And if you want to get a newsletter, then you can type manfredhelber.de/newsletter, and then yeah, you will not miss anything. So okay, that's it for today. I would like again say thank you, Marcel, to
Thank you
spend
all.
your time with us and demo your solution. I'm looking forward to our audience's feedback, and hopefully we will meet soon in person. And I would like to wish everyone a nice weekend and see you in the Azure Stack HCI show latest in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.